Good morning, everybody. It's Sam DeFellon here from Data Technology. Hope you're well. Delighted to welcome you to our webinar, focusing on today really, how Qlik users can enter, edit, and process data directly through their Qlik applications. On behalf of everyone at Data Technology, we're incredibly grateful you've taken the time to join us today. I'm joined by John Henry Mee from our partner Right today, who will help take us through much of today's content. Welcome, John. Great to have you. Moving on to today's topic, and really, as we continue to support and work with our customers across their data journey, their data life cycle, more and more we've been hearing their desire to push Qlik or their Qlik experience even further, particularly through the ability to use their analytics interface to, whether that's right back to a source database, whether it's editing data live within their Qlik interface, or even creating new data. But ultimately, improving data quality is extremely important, and the decision-making experience across a range of use cases, whether that's from sales budgeting and planning with CRM integration, credit control, right through to kind of planning and approval workflow scenarios. So yeah, that's coming up a lot within our customer base. And I guess in order to facilitate these requirements and making sure that we're assuring complete governance, robustness, and reliability that our customers demand, we strategically, probably just over a year ago now, partnered with Right, who are part of Infern. So they've been delivering their edit solution for over 5 years now, which is a Qlik trusted and certified extension. So it's a really great partnership for us and our customers. So John joins me from Right today to take you through the capabilities of the solution, how it all works, as well as a number of different use case scenarios that we hope you can relate to. So I'll pass over to you now, John, to kick things off.
Perfect. Thank you, Sam. So first of all, thank you for having me here today, and thanks for all the participants for joining. I'm John. I work for Infern in Germany. So Infern is a German-based company with around about 900 employees. So basically what Infern does is producing software. So I would imagine that 750 of these 900 employees are software developers, and that's what we've been doing for 50 years now. Obviously, you might see that I haven't been doing this for 50 years. I joined 2 years ago, and I joined as the sales and partner manager for our Right extension. And Right, as you can see on this screen, is divided into two, but basically nowadays also 3 different products. So we have Right Edit, as Sam already explained, allowing you to edit your data within Qlik. And we also have Right Plan, which allows you to do simple but also complex planning within Qlik Sense. And if we cover edit in this webinar, probably a little bit more, what you're going to see is, first of all, of course, the write back part. So how does it write back to databases and what exactly does it do? But also some really great use cases that I will show you. But what you will see there are all kinds of functionalities. So like commenting, but of course also checkboxes, free texts, etc., which allow you to have approval workflows, to improve your data quality, etc., all within Qlik Sense. So what we allow most of our customers is to kind of get rid of some other third-party tools, sometimes even Excel, for example, and do everything within Qlik, because that really helps the Qlik Sense user to kind of improve the Qlik Sense environment in a way that really makes it a better solution, we think. What I can show from our one icon here is the point enterprise readiness. So we are working with many enterprises with that solution. The good thing is that not only partners like, for example, Data Technology sell our solution, but also Qlik itself, meaning we have a lot of customers together with Qlik like Siemens, Lufthansa, etc. as well. And I think that shows that it's a pretty good solution as well. And I will now share my screen to show you as well. So what you can see here is, first of all, a very easy table where we show some different functionalities, because what might make sense today is that I kick it off with some functionalities to show you how everything works. And then afterwards, I will jump into different use cases. We've got 3 use cases today that I will show, mostly covering the edit part, meaning write back within QlikSense. But one use case at the end will also cover the financial planning, because that's a great solution where we show the combination of planning, editing, and of course, QlikSense as such. What you can see within this screen right now is a QlikSense table. But what we do is we make that table editable. So you can imagine that all the data that you see within here is data that's already within your QlikSense environment, in your QlikSense data model. And what we got asked 5 years ago by a customer is to make that data editable, because back then they wanted to have a commenting section where they were allowed to write comments within that table. And then we did that for that customer, but then we realized that this is a great product that you could sell to dozens of customers as well, because that really helps you to kind of create new use cases within QlikSense. And what you can see within this table now is that a few of the columns, like for example, the order ID and the item number, as well as the average price back here, they are non-editable. So what I did is I created that table and said, the order ID should not be editable because this is data coming from SAP, for example. But all the other data that you can see, so basically the white columns here, they are editable. So for example, what we have here is a date picker field where I can just simply edit the date to the 15th, or let me probably make it more realistic and go to the 19th of January. And what we can also do is we can use our drop-down menus. In this case, you can see a drop-down menu with all customers that you have in your environment. So as you can see, this is a predefined set of data, and you will only see the customers that you really have. And now what I can do is I can also use a smart search, searching for the value shoe, for example, and then you will only see customers with the value shoe in it. And then I can decide for Bigfoot shoes. And what we also have is an associative drop-down, meaning if you would decide for one customer here, you would then only see articles related to that customer as well. So you basically have the associativeness of QlikSense within our product as well. We do have some nice looking features like ratings, traffic lights, etc. So something that you can, of course, also use for your use cases. But what's very more relevant is calculations. So as you can see here, I can easily change that 20 million that I have here to, for example, 20K. And then you would see that the average price back here will also change as soon as I hit the enter button. Or let me change it to 5 as an example. And once again, you can see that the average price back here has changed automatically, just because we have kind of added an easy calculation here with the quantity and of course the sales forecast. So basically what you can do now within that solution is you as a user can change all of these values, but only the values that you want to change. And what you did not see so far is you don't see how the saving process works, because right now I just changed some of these cells, like for example, this date here. And what always happens is you always see an orange triangle in the right upper corner. And this triangle shows you as a user that this data has been edited, but it has not yet been saved. In order to save the values, you would need to hit this save button here. Let me do so, then you can see that this orange triangle turns blue, meaning that now our hybrid feature is activated so that you as a user can already see the changed value. But first of all, every other user needs to wait for the reload to happen in order to see the value. Normally that takes a second, like here, and then you can see the blue triangle removed and the data is now available for everyone. And as you can see, I have changed the sales forecast to $5 here now. So this is how our graphic looks like now. So let me change it back to 20 million, for example, and then take a look at that while I hit the save button. And then you can see as soon as the reload has happened and the data is back in QlikSense, the graph will react to it. And that's just basically how our solution works. Our purpose is only to develop solutions that feel like you're still working in QlikSense. We don't want you or the other users to feel like they're using a third-party tool, but it should just make a look and feel like QlikSense itself. This is why, of course, if you just use classic QlikSense filters, like filtering for 3 customers, you then also see that the extension reacts to it and that you can only see these 3 customers in here right now. What you probably also realized is that now a global input field occurs as well. So up here at the date field, the article, and also these 2 fields, you can see global input fields. And as Sam has already said, we also, or many of our customers use this for data cleansing or data quality purposes. What you could now imagine to have is probably a table with thousands of lines. What you can now do is you can easily change all of them at once. So in this case, you could, for example, change all of these customers to bike helmet. Or if you see kind of a failure or something within one of these values, you can then just change all of them in order to kind of make it work again. And then once again, I could hit the save button and all of these articles would be saved. What Sam also said is that you're not only able to edit the data that you have, but what you're also able to do is you are able to add new data to QlikSense. So this is what happens if you, for example, hit the plus button here, because here you can then add a totally new line. And within that line, you are now able to kind of create, if you like, a new order ID, a new customer, etc. And that's what you could do here to kind of create new data within QlikSense. Sam also used the example of CRM systems. We actually do have a few customers that use the right functionalities for internal CRM systems. And of course, within these CRM systems, you need functionalities to create new customers, new deals, etc. And that's what you're also capable of doing with that solution. What I did not mention so far is what actually happens if I hit the save button. Because what happens is we always write back the data into a separate database. In this case, you can basically write back the data into any common database like an MS SQL, Postgre, MariaDB, etc. And what we have, therefore, is we have a backend. And if I just go into the edit mode real quick, then I can press into this object. And right here, you see the right server settings. And what you see down here is for this object here, we created one endpoint called facts. And if I go into the right management console now, I already pre-opened it, you can see that within this management console, so it's similar to the QMC, the Qlik Management Console, you are able to create your own storage connections and your own endpoints. So in this case, with the storage connections, you could, for example, go on new connection, and then you can decide for a few connections here as an example. What you can then do is once you created your connection, you can create your own endpoints. The endpoint that I just showed you in the app was called facts. So this was the product, right, edit, and the endpoint facts. And if I go into that endpoint, you can then basically see how easy it is to configure that, because here you can then just configure the technical field name and the database field name, decide for the reload type, and then connect that on the front end. So once you save this, you go to the front end, create this endpoint here, and then our edit table knows where to store the data into. And what then happens is fully automatically, meaning you don't have to do anything. We store two different tables into your database, one showing the actual data and the other one showing the full historization of everything, so that you can always see what happened, when happened, and by whom was it changed. So that is also a very good value, I think. And now I will jump into a few use cases, because now I think you kind of got the idea of what we're doing here. And now you probably want to see a better looking app than the one that I showed you right now. So let me just change to our first app, which is a COVID hospital management app. So actually, since this topic is still very, very actual, we are working with the NHS in the UK quite a lot. And they have built some apps using our extension. So far, I think we're working with 2 or 3 different hospitals. And they have used our extension to, first of all, care about the patient admission, for example, and also the patient management, and also to define whether the station has ventilators, etc. And what we have built here is just a very easy app that you guys can also use for testing purposes, where we show some of the functionalities within a real app. What you can see from this dashboard right now is you can first of all see how many free beds are there and how many beds are occupied. Right now you can see 207 beds are free and 42 are occupied. I'm not quite sure how it is in the UK, but I know in Germany it's probably looking a bit worse right now. But nonetheless, this is just an example. And if I change to the next sheet, you can then see the patient admission. As I said, in this app, we built a patient admission, a patient management, and then also a station and bed management. Starting with the patient admission, what you can see here are all different wards or stations. And what you can, of course, also see is how many of these beds are occupied and how many are free. As I said, quite many are free in here right now. What you could basically do now is if you have someone entering your hospital with a positive COVID test, then what you could do is you could just select one station. For example, in this case, you could go to the Qlik station, and within that station, you can then only see the beds that are still free. So in this case, for example, bed number 5 is free. I select that one, and what you then also see is that our extension occurs here. What I have built here is slightly different from what I showed you in the beginning, because in the beginning, you only saw the table. What we show here right now is we also show it in a formula, because if you're working with an iPhone or with any other tablet or mobile phone, then it's probably better to work with formulas instead of a large table. And what you can do here now is you can then kind of select the bed for the patient, what I already did, and you can also define when was the positive COVID test. For example, we could say it was the 19th of January. And then we could also define the assumed days of stays. For example, in this case, 21 days, and we can easily add a comment here. Just an example. And once again, what I could do now is I could hit the save button, and the same process happens. The data is being saved, stored in a separate database, pulled back into Qlik Sense, and that's just a reload that, depending on your app, takes 1 second, 2 seconds, or probably a little bit more, totally depending on your app. But what you saw now is that now it has been saved, and now bed number 5 is occupied, and it's not possible anymore to kind of put a new patient into that bed number 5. So that's basically what we just wanted to show here. Of course, you could add any other values to that formula as well. So if you also want to select ventilator, yes, no, within that, you could also just add a line where you can just use a checkbox or so. So that totally depends on you. We always say that we see our solution as a toolbox, and it totally depends on your use case, what you do with it. So let me then just go to the next sheet, and in the next sheet, we can then see the patient management, because within the patient management, it looks similar, but now you can also see the patient ID up here. With the patient ID, you can then be GDPR correct and then just define, okay, I want to take a look at this patient, for example. And then you can see, first of all, where is the patient right now? Right now, the patient is in bed 4. The date of his COVID test was April 2020, so pretty long ago. Nonetheless, he still has some problems. So what we can then say is, for example, let's keep him longer, another 40 days, just as an example, and write a comment here. And what I want to show you now is the history, because if I hit the save button now, once again, we start with the saving process. And of course, for doctors, nurses, etc., it's also relevant to see a history of the patient. So for example, if you change the patient from station 1 into the station 2, then you would like to see what was his station beforehand. Or you could also say, yeah, he got better, or right now he does not need a ventilator, beforehand he had one. And that's what you could see down here, because down here, we now have the patient history, and you see the patient that I just changed, or basically the example that I added, will be shown here as well. And now you have the full history, and you have the versioning, meaning this is version 4, the latest version. And you could also add a timestamp showing you when has it been changed, and also by whom has it been changed, so that you can see which nurse has kind of been handling this, or which doctor has been handling this. That being said, for the patient management, just as an easy example, I can now switch to the station and bed management. What we can do here is, I can still remember at the beginning of when COVID started, many hospitals said that they might need some extra wards or stations outside of the hospitals, because the hospital will just be occupied. What you could then do here is you can add wards to that station management app that we just showed, because what you can do here is you could just use our add button and just call a station data technology, for example. And what you could then do is you can say within their offices, we think right now they're all in the home office, so probably there will be 20 beds within that office. So why don't we do that? I can add Sam, please leave the office. Looks like you're in the office right now. And then you can see I can just hit the enter button once again. And what happens now is, once again, the reload happens. And as soon as the data is back in Qlik Sense, you will see that a station is added here, meaning you will then also see the data text station that is shown right now, and you can see the 20 beds, which are all free. So if I change to the previous sheet, the patient admission, you will then also see that the data tag office is also added to as a station in here. And now you could do the same procedure and kind of use patients for these beds, etc. That's just one example. Switching to a different app. This is an app that we have built with DHL. Probably most of you know them, the largest German parcel company. And what they wanted to have is an app where their drivers and also their dispatchers have a better overview of the packages and the deliveries. So this is just a Qlik dashboard. You can see the total number of packages, the total deliveries. And down here, you can see a few drivers. But if I change to the next sheet, you can then also see a detailed view. So for example, you can hover above Germany and see, okay, in Chemnitz, we have 7 packages already delivered and 11 are still open. And this is basically the dispatcher's view. So the dispatcher has a very good overview of all her or his drivers. And then you can see that here, for example, Tanya has a tour to Leipzig today. And here you can basically see all of the tours. In green, you can see the ones that are delivered out right now. In yellow, the ones that are already delivered. And in white, the ones that still need to be delivered. And what I could do now is I could, for example, select one driver. Let me select Andreas here. And then you can see the details for Andreas. But if I change to the next sheet, you will see our extension again, because now this is the view of Andreas. So you can imagine that Andreas would be sitting in his van, and then he could just kind of use an iPad and then just kind of fingertip onto his tour. And the next tour he would like to drive is this one, meaning from Nuremberg to Dresden, both very German sounding cities. And what you can then do here is you can then once again see our control panel or the control panel of Andreas. And this is nothing else but our extension again, where Andreas could then say, okay, this tour has been delivered, and write a comment, something like easy. And then he could once again hit the save button. As soon as the reload is through, the dispatcher will then see, okay, Andreas has delivered this. And then the next tour occurs where Andreas could then say, okay, next tour is Nuremberg to Essen, where Andreas could then also say, no, I have to reschedule that to the 27th because I won't manage it. Also hit the save button, etc. And this is just the process of how Andreas could then work with this app. And here it's also possible to, for example, add a QR tag or to kind of just switch a driver, whatever you like to switch to. And then you can once again select one tour. And this is the same procedure again. Once again, the dispatcher has a great overview of the whole historization, because you can always see when was which parcel delivered to which customer. And of course, the drivers could use this app within a tablet or within a tablet in their van, for example, to kind of have a better experience than they have right now. What I can easily show within this app as well is that this app is also possible to use it on an iPad, because I can just make it a little bit smaller, and then you can see that it's no problem to also use it on mobile devices. Our extension, just as Qlik as well, reacts to it. So it doesn't matter whether it's an iPhone or any other phone or a tablet, etc. You can just use it. So that basically showing you some of the use cases. What we have for Right is, since we have 200 or 300 customers using the extension, we of course have hundreds of use cases. Once again, if you have some use cases in mind where this solution might be relevant for you, then just reach out to Sam or to Isabel, and they will help you with this use case. They can show you whether it's possible, whether it's something that they already did for their customers. But as I said, all these solutions that I show you today are also available for you guys, so that you can also play around with them. One solution that I can show you here is, as I said, I also wanted to cover the planning part, but nonetheless, within this planning solution, we don't only show planning, but also parts of edit. And to just explain the licensing model here as well is we differ between 2 different licenses, one only edit and one plan including edit. So if you decide to go for the plan license, then all edit functionalities will be within that. What you can see here is a financial planning app. And as you can see a dashboard showing the actual turnover, actual quantity, and of course then detailed views of some different stores, etc. If I switch to the next sheet then, you can first of all, see some KPIs up here, but what you also see is one specific plan. Let me just reopen that because I had it open for quite some time. It's not loading right now. There it is. And now it's also loading our plan solution down here, because what we have here is we now have a quantity plan, as you can see here. And what we allow here is that the sales rep can change the planned quantities and he can create different plans and scenarios. So in this example, we have a liquor store, or basically a company with several different liquor stores. And in this case, you can see a store central, for example. Underneath the store central, you can see the different liquors like Johnny Walker, Jim Beam, etc. What you as a sales rep could now do is you could plan the quantities. Because what we allow with our solution is we allow top-down and bottom-up planning, and we also allow forecasting. So first of all, what you could do is you could say, I want to change the totals from 140K to, let me add 10%. 154K, and then you can see that this value is added, but also all the other drinks that you could see down here are also added. So basically, you can then just use this as a top-down calculation, but of course, I can also change something here to 30K, and then it's a bottom-up calculation, and then you can basically see that January has changed once again. But normally, what you would not do is you would not change the January values of 2020, but what you would instead do is you would see 2020 as your past year, and then based on 2020, you would create a new plan. And that's basically what you can do by using this button here, create new budget. And by using that button now, you can decide for a planning factor. So for example, I can decide for the planning factor of 120%, budget name, data tech, and the planning year is now 2021. I hit the OK button, and you can see right away it created a new plan with an additional 20%, and then I could once again go into the detailed planning. Of course, section access management works here, meaning if you use ClickSense and you say that, for example, John is only allowed to see the store central because this is his stores, or he's the store manager of store central, then he would also only be allowed to see it. And of course, you could have a large view of the CEO who would see everything, as an example. And what we could do now is we can go into detailed planning and change all the quantities once again to kind of make that plan more realistic for 2021. Of course, once again, the graphs will react to it. So in this case, you can see that May is slightly higher than all the others. So you can see that May is also higher in here. And if I would change May, then also this graph would change accordingly. Now I showed you the quantity plan, but of course it also might make sense to not only work with the quantity plan, but also, let me select the budget again. Let me select that one. But also do the margin planning then. What you could do is you could use one planning solution to do so that you have two KPIs within one plan, but you could of course also do it separately, because in this case, the controller can then change the plan margins and manage the impacts for the P&L statement. And that's what he could then do here in detail. He could also then open all these hierarchies and plan everything in detail. Just as an example, Lufthansa, the German airline, is working with this solution as a financial planning solution. Beforehand, they have been using a solution by SAP, but since they switched to ClickSense, they said that it might make sense to have a solution which is also based on ClickSense. And what they do is they are not planning on 3 hierarchy levels, but on 14, and they are actually planning for the whole P&L statement. So basically, they can see all the cost centers, and then they can do their cost center planning within ClickSense nowadays. Of course, this is a pretty big solutions, but we have a success story in that. So who's interested in kind of getting a deep dive into that, just let Sam know and we will share that with you as well. That being said, I showed you that the controller do all the changes here as well. And what we could then see is in the next step, we can see a approval workflow, because within this approval workflow, we have two different views. And for that approval use workflow, we will once again use our solution write edit, because what you can do now here is you can use checkboxes and also comments to say, yeah, this plan, best case, I am ready. And then basically the reviewer can confirm that and hit the checkbox. And in the next step, once again, once the reload has happened, the manager would see that he finished this plan, and the plan would occur down here, as you can see right now, where the comment was ready. And then the manager could rather once again approve it, or he could also decline that by saying, no, I reviewed it, it doesn't work. He can then also write a comment to tell him, or he could basically just approve it, approve that value, and then this value will also be approved for the P&L statement. Because what we then have in the end again is, in the end, we have a P&L statement. And within this P&L statement, you can, for example, select only approved values, in this case with a 1. And then you would only see values from plans that have already been approved. And that is basically what we try to build with our plan solutions. With our plan solution, we always try to kind of start with the planning process, with a simple planning process, could be sales planning, could be personal planning or financial planning, and then kind of cover everything and then come to a dashboard like showing a P&L statement, etc. Because that's also something that you could do. What I did not show you so far is the Gantt functionality. And since I still have some time left, I think that might also be relevant for you, because Gantt is also part of the planning solution. So if you decide to go with planning, Gantt is also available, and you could also just acquire Gantt on its own. So I will just do a real quick recap of that as well, if that's okay for you, Sam. And then right after that, we can probably jump into the Q&A section.
Yeah, great. Go for it, John.
Perfect. Because what we have built with Gantt is, as you might know, Gantt is a solution that allows you to do project management within Qlik. And that's basically what we did here, because within this solution, we allow you to do your project management and visualize it in a Gantt chart. But since we've got 5 years experience of write back, we then thought that it might make sense to kind of make or create an editable Gantt chart. So what you could basically do is you can easily create new projects, as we did here as well. And what you can then do is you can just kind of drag and drop them to any time that suits you. You can just kind of connect them to each other, like we did here, for example. And then you can also use these different project types or milestones, etc., and then just switch them. And that just allows you to use this solution for project management as well. But what makes this great as well is you can just type into the office relocation project as an example, do a double click, and then you once again see that there's a description. You can write down a comment, you can define the project. And of course, you could also define whether this is really a project or whether this is just a task. If I select task, you can then also deselect the start date and the duration. And you can also select whether it's a milestone. A milestone would be the party at the end, for example. And if we, once again, delete that, you can then see that within this case, I'm now not really within the days, but what we have here is we also kind of see the weekends. And in this case, if you don't work at weekends, then of course our solution will react to that. And if you have a 5 days project and 2 days are on a Saturday and Sunday, then it will then also add 2 days to it, so that it's then in total a 7 days project, because you're not able to work on Saturdays and Sundays, etc. So this is logic that we of course have in the background as well. If project management is something that's relevant for you, just let us know. But I think the focus for today's webinars should be editing. And that's why I showed you the different use cases for editing. Just as my last add-on for that, we do have some major features planned, of course, or some that I did not show you so far. For example, one large feature set called Write Live, which will be part of the editing process. And that allows you to do live approval workflows, live validations, etc., all without waiting for the reload to happen within Qlik. So that's also something that you guys will then work on once you're working on your first use cases. Perfect, Sam.
Amazing. Thanks so much, John. Yeah, fantastic demo. Love the way users can kind of seamlessly navigate and interact with the object, right through Qlik Sense, from entering data back to near live refresh and analysis. Really great stuff. Thanks, John, and thanks so much everyone for attending. Really appreciate your time. Take care, everyone.
See you guys. Bye.